Very nice. Will you announce your name?
My name's Richard Bogan.
And are you a musician around town? Do you perform around town? Is this the only venue you perform with? Is Sound Art?
I play a lot of different instruments and
You
play
play-
a lot of different bands. Sometimes I use the name Windy Boygen when I perform kind of experimental music.
So if people are looking for you, they can kind of find you under that. Do you have a Facebook or
They
anything?
can find me under Windy Boygen on Facebook, I believe, or on Bandcamp, and Richard Bogan also has a page.
Well, can I ask you a real quick question?
Of course.
Okay, so we deal with the expressive arts, and we believe that expression heals. And so music, like I was talking to Chris, this to some may not sound like music, but how would you equate what you do to music, like traditional music?
I have a hard time drawing the line between like music and sound. That's a hard question to answer.
Actually, I think that's the perfect answer.
Okay, that's
That's
the answer
exactly the answer, right, everybody? That's what I was looking for. Okay, that's how I feel, is that sound is music. It just depends on the person's perception that's receiving that, how that translates.
That's what Frank Zappa said. You know, once the listener decides that it's music, then it has become music. So,
Thank you
Yeah,
for the
you're
little
welcome.
quick interview, and I'll let you get back to your performance.
okay, yeah, so we'll have time for questions and stuff. I guess I'll just tell you a little bit about... What's up?
I've got that for you. Magic.
Magic.
Yes.
Do you think what he did was magic?
Yes.
Oh, he thinks what you did. You think it was magic, huh? All right. He was definitely enjoying it, and that speaks volumes.
Awesome.
That speaks volumes. So go ahead.
Awesome. So yeah, I've been a percussionist for a long time and drum set player, and played a lot of different kinds of music, and also just kind of like made stuff up a lot with friends and stuff. That was kind of what I would do, is just improvise. That's how I met Jimmy. We were improvising and doing kind of free jazz stuff, I guess. And I was studying percussion at ASU, and around that time I also discovered like banjos, and was studying a lot of different kinds of music and Americana music, and really got into banjos. And there's a lot of different kinds of banjos and a lot of different kinds of banjo music out there, and it was sort of just inevitable, being a percussionist, that I would start thinking about ways to use banjos as percussion instruments. And I had this idea for a long time, and I didn't really know if it would work. But then, as far as putting this banjos on a snare drum stand, I thought it might just fall over. This one was doing a little bit of that today. But I put one on and was surprised that it just worked really well. It held the banjo, it stayed up, and I could hit it. So then that has, for I guess 3 or 4 years maybe, it led me to just experimenting in different ways of how I could play this as an instrument. And what I did today in the spirit of Sound Art Arizona was just kind of exploring different sounds and how can you kind of subtly affect different sounds. And I've also tried to like play more traditional music on this instrument. So that's kind of where I say it's hard to like blur the line. I kind of know when I'm specifically trying to play like an old traditional song or something, or I know when I'm just trying to like play a note and mess with the tone, but there's kind of a big space in between. So a lot of what I do, as far as like, you know, it's all improvised, but a lot of what I'm doing when I set up the instrument kind of dictates how much I can do with it. And I've come up with different tunings and combinations of tunings to allow me to do certain things. So, for instance,
I could tell.
yeah. So my friend Tatsuya Nakatani is a percussionist, and he makes these bows. He designed these to play his gongs, and he also custom builds them for people. So he custom built these two so that I could play two at once. And I was using certain tunings, and then figured out, I can really only hit the outside strings independently, or I can hit all of them. The middle strings are I can't independently hit those. So then I came up with a tuning where I can play, the three outside strings and have them kind of be in harmony.
Which makes music.
I know, I'm kind of
Harmony and
treading in dangerous territory here.
Traditionalist.
It's a plan.
But yeah, so I mean, there's other times where I'm just like, we'll have a gong or a percussion instrument and try to tune the banjo to that, or we'll try to just randomly tune it and not really think about the notes or a scale. I've done pentatonic scales, and that works well for these dulcimer mallets. I can kind of, if I aim really carefully, I can almost hit independent strings with, and do different techniques with that. I was trying to figure out how I could play the instrument, so I found these dulcimer mallets. That works pretty well. I can even be pretty accurate with drumsticks and hit the head just fine with drumsticks. Sometimes I'll have a bass drum and a hi-hat and play play drum set beats. I've got this little snare I didn't use today. Sometimes I can put that on a drum, and see if I can show a little bit of that. Make it like a snare drum. So yeah, I'm constantly trying to see what I can do to make it more traditional, and then also what I can do to make it less traditional. Because if you play any kind of banjo, someone's gonna ask, can you play Deliverance? And so this is how I can get as far away from that as possible.
Yay.
Okay, sorry, you had a
Have you
question.
tried an E-bow?
I would like to try an E-bow. That would be really cool. I've never actually played with one. I've seen people do really cool stuff with them, but that would be nice. Yeah.
Are you wondering what an EBow is, kiddo?
Yeah, it's like, can you explain? It's like vibrates the string without touching it, right?
Yeah, well, actually, you put it on the string. There's a groove, and you do it first for one string. It's best if you understand guitar.
Yeah.
It's best from the second string,
Okay.
and it's battery operated.
Mm-hmm.
And you use this finger as you would a regular guitar, and then you just keep it mostly on the neck pickup.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, I saw. If any of you know who Jeff German is, he did a really cool piece where he had multiple E-bows on a snare drum, and somehow they just kind of like buzzed around and like were moving around. Thought that was really cool.
The E stand, it's like an electronic bow.
Right. It's basically like kind of bowing the
That's how
string.
the term came on.
Nice.
But it's a neat sound. It's eerie.
Yeah, no, I need to get one of those. Any other questions? I kind of babbled for a minute. I would like some more.
So
questions.
since the line is so blurry, would you agree that it's more the frequency and the resonance that is what brings people together with sound, music, sound, blur the line? It's more how it feels, that vibration, that frequency.
Yeah, I mean everything is vibration. So I think sound is some expression of that vibration that we can perceive and perceive in different ways. So I am a music therapist. I study music therapy in school, which kind of means different things to different people. But what is healing or relaxing to one person can be really jarring and the opposite to someone.
Yes.
Someone could relax with classical music, but someone else might get really anxious by that. And I don't have an exact belief about, some people really believe that certain frequencies are inherently healing, or certain scales or ragas in Indian music are just gonna heal you no matter what. And there's studies that kind of go against that. Not to say that studies are always right, but I don't know how I feel about that necessarily. I think you definitely have to be in a certain mindset. So
Well, each
yeah.
person is like an antenna receiving a signal, and like you said, if that what may sound wonderful to me and relaxing to me could be like nails on a chalkboard to somebody else.
Right.
And it is about the perception and where you are physically as an energy being in space, and how it resonates with you.
Right.
You know, it's like the Tacoma Bridge, right? That resonance. You remember the Tacoma Bridge? Tacoma Narrows Bridge, right? The wind blowing through there reached a certain frequency that resonated so well with the bridge that it literally rocked itself side to side until it fell apart.
Oh wow.
So just look up Tacoma Narrows Bridge. But that's one of the best examples of sound and resonance and the power that resonance has. So that was my question, which you answered quite well. Thank you.
Okay.
Because there really is a blurry line, I think. And that's why I'm really excited to be here and we're at the Creative Center at the Science Center, right, downtown Phoenix. And this is Sound Art of Arizona, and I want to thank them for having us out today, and thank you for talking about this, because I think this is important for our veterans to get involved with for expressing themselves in a creative way. So awesome.
I have a
Good.
really interesting, what I think is an interesting question. My son here, Joshua, and I know you had did things before, and obviously he's kind of almost in your face, and I hope it wasn't too distracting.
No, not at all.
But what do he obviously has a severe form of autism, but he was reacting to your music in a very
Dynamic.
calming, but very dynamic
Yes.
way, the way he was reacting to the music. And I wanted to get what your thoughts were to how he was reacting to your music. I'm assuming that you noticed.
During the performance, I sometimes am pretty in tune with the audience, or am
Yeah.
but today I was really just kind of focused on making sound, so I didn't really notice what was
Yeah,
going on.
he was very in tune, almost like he was directing, almost like a brush. The way he was doing, he
Well,
always
when you would
stopped
hit
stuff.
a very dynamic sound, his hands would come up like this, and very, sharp, very deliberate motion with the sound. And I was noticing that too.
Yeah.
I should have panned over on it, but I was so focused
Right,
on
you're
what
so
he was
focused.
doing. But that right there shows that, did you enjoy that a lot?
Yeah.
You did? Why?
Because
Because
I know how to use system from 1906.
you do?
Yes,
And would you like to do something like this?
yes.
I think you could do something like this.
Yeah,
Think about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just the way that your sound was, affecting him was, I believe, very interesting. And
Nice.
maybe even something maybe you could even explore with other people with autism and stuff, that's where their emotional and some states can be heightened with music. The way your sound was heightening how he was perceiving.
That's
Very,
interesting.
very
Yeah, I don't know if
interesting.
it's certain frequencies or if
Well-
it's just something
I think
different.
that
It-
I know.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. Being
Yeah.
a physical therapist, and I've done neurodevelopmental training.
Oh, cool.
And music has a lower brain effect. It creates certain pathways. It facilitates a rhythmic basis that you can utilize clinically to overcome problems, physical
Right,
problems.
right. A lot of the research that I've seen is really is heavily based on rhythm.
Yes.
Like you said,
Rhythm.
the neurological music therapy
Well,
stuff.
actually, it's called dysdiadochokinesis is the problem, and rhythmic music, is the answer.
Yeah.
Well, if I may comment as a scientist, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, the action and reaction and the difference between the two. And what I saw was his sympathetic nervous system, i.e. the emotion, the way he was connecting with it, but then his parasympathetic nervous system were the jarring motions that he was making physically. So you could literally see both nervous systems being acted upon during your performance. And one of the great things I'd like to say about this is that for someone with autism, where there's no confines, it's not structured like music is, where they could just come and pluck and bow and make their own sounds. This type of thing, I think, could be absolutely immensely therapeutic for individuals that are dealing with high level of autism.
Nice.
So just thought I'd throw it out.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Thank you.
It's not parasitic. It's different. But
Well, I
you're
just
right.
read a
You're
research
right.
paper
You're
on
right.
it this
You're
morning,
right.
so.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the one that I gave you, yeah. Did you read any of that? Yeah, well, it's a great article, and it talks about.
Where was it published?
I'll get it for you. Yeah.
I meant because I
Yeah, Chris.
use it clinically. I used it clinically.
But it's all about performance anxiety.
And that's
It's one of the
perfect.
best
That's what I got.
It's one of the best I've found
I
on.
need help with that.
So,
Somebody guide you up a little bit?
I've been influenced
Missed
by
the
a lot of
question.
things. And when I started doing this, I assumed someone had done this before. I don't think that I'm so
We
like
always do.
innovative, or anything. It's like they're banjos, but a lot of extended. I've been interested as a drummer and multi-instrumentalist in what they call extended techniques, which is just non-traditional ways of playing, and prepared instruments. So, John Cage has prepared piano pieces. Fred Frith is a guitarist that does a lot of prepared stuff. A lot of guitarists, I don't know if they use sewing needles like this, but Fred Frith will do that where he weaves the needles and they kind of bounce around. And I really like that. And when I did it with a banjo, it has its own, and it's acoustic, but it has, because of the banjo head, it has its own resonance.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to find a good way to amplify it or to demonstrate it, but sometimes it's just the weirdest sound. So a lot of times I'm just kind of trying to use that to guide me, like, oh, that's a different sound that I don't even know how it's happening, or like something like this. If it's on the strings and then I hit it and it just bounces in this certain way and this certain harmonic is a certain place, and it's like I want to recreate that and I can't always, so I can only get to it by just kind of messing around. And then Tatsuya Nakatani is another person. As a percussionist, he's kind of influenced me. I've seen him play a lot and played with him, and his bows are really great, and he just does really interesting percussion stuff, and his approach to sound is really interesting too, and talking about someone who kind of blurs music and sound, almost has like a sound bath sort of vibe, but then we'll also just kind of do crazy percussion rhythmic stuff. So yeah, some of those people, John Cage, Tatsuya, and other percussionists like Chris Cogburn is another person. Just anything I see there in this kind of free improvisation world. That's a whole world and a whole genre of music of people who are really exploring these types of ways of playing. So that's definitely been an influence.
It's almost like a cellist would use.
Yeah, definitely. No, but if you give me $100, I will squeal like a pig.
That's all?
I try to come up with a new joke every time. I just came up with that one in the bathroom. All right, well, thank you so much to Chris
Thank you.
and Jimmy, Sound Art Arizona. Awesome.